Bethany's running a little class again at the cemetery, so it's a bit of a spiritual development one. I'm just going to have a bit of a wander around and just show you a little bit more of the cemetery. Last night I did a little bit of an experiment here at the cemetery. There's some awesome graves here. Yeah, last night I did a couple of experiments here at the cemetery just on my own, and it was quite funny really, because I sort of ended up putting out a couple of gold coins and a $5 bill, trying to tempt spirit to come close to the K2 meter, which didn't really work. I didn't really get much of a reaction out of that. But and then I sort of, this morning I was thinking, well, spirit must think that us humans are stupid. I mean, honestly, putting out money for them, what do we think that they're going to do? Still, you know, pick them up, put it in their pockets and just wander off with it? I mean, you know, fair dinkum. And then a little bit later on I sort of thought, well, spirit are known to move objects, and they can certainly report objects. That's make them disappear and then make them reappear again. You hear a lot of stories of, you know, people leave car keys on a bench, they know exactly where to put them, or they've put something down on a table, they've gone back to get it later and it's not there, and they're running around the house looking everywhere for it, and they walk back to the table a little bit later on, or even after they give up looking for it, it's back there on the table again. So spirit are known to move things. Also, people have, I'm sure you've all heard of stories where people have had things just drop out of the sky or just drop out of the air, and sort of hit the floor right in front of them. So spirits certainly can move objects, probably even from one dimension to another. You know, there's so much that we don't know about spirit. There's so much we don't know what they can and can't do, that, you know, it sort of pays to have an open mind. I love these graves. I love all this wrought iron stuff. It's actually got its own special beauty, hasn't it? But yeah, it's like, I've spent 40 years as a paranormal investigator doing spiritual stuff, and it never ceases to amaze me. It's really quite interesting. Never ceases to amaze me the things that you just continually learn. You know, it's one of those areas where you never stop learning. The biggest thing, of course, is, you know, giving respect. So wherever I go, whether I say it aloud or just say it within my mind, I always give respect to spirit and the area, and indeed even the original landowners. This one's caved in a little bit. Australia is such a young country. There were people here before us, so we give respect to the original landowners. And the other thing too is put the money out and everything like that. When it comes to spirit, as I said, they can actually move objects. They can interfere with electronic gear because they have that. The spirit energy is an electrical energy. So it's an electrical base energy. And that's why, you know, on misty days you tend to get a little bit more spirit activity. There's more reports of sightings of ghosts and things like that on wet, dreary, misty nights. Just love these graves, really love these graves. And of course you get the residual spirit energy too, which no doubt everybody's heard some sort of a story of seeing a spirit of a woman pass by on a road or in a house or a castle, something like that, and the spirit doesn't even blink an eyelid that there are human people living there. It's a residual energy. It's like the atmospheric conditions are just right for you to be able to see something of, it's almost like a rerun of the past. And of course there's the great stories of in England where people had reported seeing Romans walking down a roadway, but you see them from the knee upwards, and it's basically because the road itself, the original Roman road, was another, you know, 1.5 foot down. So basically what you're seeing at road level is from the knee upwards, and that's a residual energy. And you know, Roman soldiers have been seen walking down a roadway, and interesting grave over there I'll head towards. Yeah, there's you've seen Roman soldiers walking down a roadway, and basically they're knee deep into the road already, and that's because the original road, the Roman road, back then was 1.5 foot or so down below where the road is now. And that's a residual haunting. Around this cemetery here, over the time that I've come here, I've seen a few different things. Most of it's been intelligent energies. That's where spirit know that you're here. They can see you and sense you, and they either choose to come towards you to try and communicate, or they choose not to. See if I can get around to that one and have a bit of a look. I don't want to step on any unmarked graves, which I'm sure there are a few around. And generally, when I switch myself on, oh, I just want to have a look at this one. This is a bit sad. Yeah, when I switch myself on, I can generally feel with my senses where there are unmarked graves. That's a little sad. See, I don't... To me, I think this is... I mean, yes, it has caved in on the side there, but again, to me, it's vandalism. It's a sad thing, you know. There's so many and a bit here. I think to this side there's probably unmarked graves, but it's just a sad thing. You know, I mean, these things are pretty solid, and there's no way knowing that the wind's going to blow it over. I mean, that whole foundation there is pretty solid, and same with this one. It's like people have come along, vandalised these graves. It's such a sad thing. Well, here's something that's interesting. Edward Harrington, and again it looks like it's vandalised. Somebody's obviously recently enough popped some flowers down. They're a bit dead now, but you know, recent times. But it's so sad to see the vandalism at cemeteries. It's like, I can't understand why people do it. I really can't. So I'm going to send out a lot of love and blessings to all the people who have passed over here in the cemetery, but particularly to all of those who have had their graves, their headstones kicked over, demolished. It's not a natural thing. It's just not a natural thing. There's more everywhere, everywhere. But I guess this is, you know, what happens in a lot of major towns. They got kids, drunks. I really don't know. I really don't know. I mean, these foundations here, these are really pretty solid. I mean, that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk of headstone. But still, even that, no storms, no wind could have done anything like that. That's just plain destruction. And it's so sad because some of these headstones, they actually look really interesting. And here, that's obviously come straight off of that. And that's probably come straight off of this one here. Same sort of material. I just don't get it. If there's any spirit here at all hanging around the cemetery, come and speak into my camera and let me know what you think of all of these broken headstones. Have you seen people doing this? You can speak into the camera. and let me know what you think about all of this. Just going through some random parts. This was pretty huge. But you look at how thick the base is. And it's, you know, they must have got to it with a sledgehammer or something, who knows. Just doesn't make sense. I can't see water getting into it. It's sort of creating cracks and causing issues. It's a good one. In memory of Michael O'Neill, born Ireland 1789, arrived Ballarat 1855. Died 1859. It's a long way from Tipperary, and it's nice to see a fresh memorial here. Obviously recently put here. It's in very good condition, and it just sort of emphasises that, again, Ballarat during the major gold rush of the 1850s and 1860s, people came from all over the world. They heard about the gold here, and there was masses of gold. People come from England, Scotland, America, Ireland, came from Europe, all parts of Europe. And this area is relatively untouched of destruction. There's a couple of headstones here and there scattered, but nothing really major. A couple here and there. Just an awesome cemetery to walk through, and then you just read some of the stuff that's written on the headstones as you're walking past. Again, this is not a big grave or anything, so it's somebody who definitely didn't have a lot of money, or the family didn't have a lot of money, and yet it's, in its way, is just a very, very basic headstone, and it's been kicked out. Really saddens me to see that. lot of them are quite substantial size headstones too. You can see the size of them. It's just okay. In 1884, Thomas Stoddard presented 12 marble statues to adorn the Botanic Gardens. Railing restored in the style of the period of Friends of the Ballarat Botanic Gardens. It's okay, so the Botanic Gardens Society restored the railings here, which is really nice. Thomas Stoddard was a very well-known character in Ballarat. Did a lot of work for the Botanic Gardens, which are absolutely beautiful, and he built some of the statues that adorn the gardens there. He was born in Roxburgh, Scotland in 1828 and arrived in Ballarat in 1853. He died in 1905. So thank you, Thomas, for doing what you did to the with the gardens and putting the statues up there. They actually look beautiful. And it's, but again, you know, it's just a shame that he's sitting here right in the middle of a cemetery and you wouldn't even know he was here. I've got to say though, there is at the start of the cemetery there is a little building that's got a little computer in it that you can punch in, find out how many people are buried here. You find out where they're buried. You can punch in certain names if you're looking for someone, which is a nice thing to have. And this is an all concreted area. Again, look at this. This is huge. How did that come over? Seriously. That's a solid block though. I mean, for anybody to try and move that is just, how the hell can that fall over? I mean, that would have been standing right up here against the thing, and it's just like, that's solid down there. How can that go over? Somebody must have put a rope around it or something and tried to drag the thing, or a couple of guys for sure, because that's way too heavy for one person to try, and it just doesn't make sense. In memoriam, old pioneers prior to 1853, unrecorded, erected 1933. This whole grassy area here I've wandered through a couple of times, and you know, I do believe that there are unmarked graves here, and this probably emphasises that fact. Starting to rain a little bit. That's okay. Ambulance. Side road over there going through. Let's watch the ambulance go past. Where's he going? Oh, he's going down. He's going down Drummond Street, which is the road where the two hospitals in Ballarat are, St John God Hospital and the Ballarat Base Hospital, both down that road. Mind you, this cemetery is not used Ballarat has a new cemetery, which you've probably seen on our vids, which is absolutely huge. The rain's starting to come down a bit, so I'll just make my way back to the rotunda before I get soaking wet. See what the girls are up to. They're doing a little bit of a classy thing, spiritual development. So I'll just walk a little bit quicker. The phone's getting wet. There's coffee over there. I'm going to go get a coffee. Head for the rotunda. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Got to have coffee. Alright, I'm going for the coffee. See ya. Well, I've had my coffee. Bit of a chat to the girls. Quite an interesting little grave, this one. Just want to key in on this guy's name here. Charles Kenneth Ken Taylor. Poet and natural history filmmaker, 24th of July 1930 to 2nd April 2014. Now, this fella here, little story with him. We've come to the cemetery here a few times, and we actually come across a fella called himself Charlie, and he actually communicated with us through spirit boxes, through mediumship. We didn't know who he was. We got he told us his surname was Taylor, and he just liked to be called Charlie. And he sort of told us during our communications that he was an entertainer, and he did a lot of stuff with the local TV station, the ABC, and radio as well. And we thought, okay, rightio, no worries. And he was quite a character. He was a bit of a clown, liked to laugh, had a bit of a laugh with us, and he liked doing a little bit of singing as well. And so we ended up actually looking up Charlie Taylor, and we found out that he was who he said he was, which was totally amazing. And we came back to the cemetery and we come across Charlie again. I think it was a couple of times later that we come to this cemetery, I'm not too sure. But we come across him again and sort of said, right, we've got some rods here, can you direct us with the divining rods to your grave? And he led us to his grave, and there he was, Charlie Taylor. And that what I just showed you was part of his family grave. We're kind of like, when you count up the number of people that were in the grave, it looks like there could be like 6 in the grave, but we think that Charlie, maybe a couple of the others, were cremated, and maybe the ashes were spread into the grave itself or spread elsewhere. But the little memorial plaque was quite nice there to actually see, and you know, he led us there with the rods, which was quite an incredible little thing. And it's just started. I've just walked out of the rotunda, just had me coffee, and I thought, beauty, it stopped raining. And go for another little walk down here, show you a little bit more of the cemetery. And it's just started very finely spitting again. So anyway, got my lights on the camera this time. There's a lot of old moss sort of growing on some of these graves. Just walking down the main roadway now. Probably do a little circuit. Starting to get a little bit darker now, and I think the girls won't be too far finishing their little spiritual development circle. And why not do it at a cemetery? I mean, you know, you're learning about spirit, you're learning to develop your senses, and why not give it a go in a cemetery? As I've said many a time, cemeteries are mostly peaceful, but this cemetery being right in the middle of town, it's pretty. I'm going to stop here again. This is pretty awesome. This cemetery being in the middle of town, it's going to, there's houses all around it. You're going to have a lot of different spiritual energies around here. Ballarat, of course, being an old gold mining town. It's quite a substantial one there too. And so you got a lot of history. A lot of people came to the town to try and make their fortune in gold. I was going to do a K2 and an EVP and all that sort of stuff, and I thought, no, I just want to talk. Just want to rave. And I think earlier on, what got me was the area that I went in. There was so much damage to the graves that people have done, and I just want to show you some of these. You know, these were substantial graves back in the 1800s. You know, it's like cost a pretty penny, that's for sure. Now, I went to the Chinese memorial area the other day, which you've probably seen on one of our YouTube vids. So I'm just going to walk down the main roadway. It is starting to spit again. I want to get back to the rotunda before I get absolutely saturated. Things you do. Oh well. It's all worth it.